Welcome to the Crazy Chicken People podcast. If you're crazy about chickens, then you're in the right place. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am so eager to get into today's episode, and that is because I am joined by Jacob and Sara Franklin of Roovolution, and we're talking about some of the issues that chicken keepers are facing with roosters and some of the problems commonly seen with dominance training, and then another possibly more effective method that doesn't get as much attention as it should. So, guys, welcome. I'm so excited to have you join us, and I have to know, how do you go from a family without chickens to one now leading the Roovolution?
Well, I mean, where do we begin? We've always been animal lovers since childhood, always kept exotic pets as well as, dogs and cats and other domestic animals. But when Sara and I met, we were both into reptiles, and she had a ball python, and I had a red-tailed boa constrictor, and we were super excited about that and bonded over that. And through time and additional experiences came to learn that even our snakes defied expectations when it came to the level of input and feedback that they could give. Most people think of snakes as emotionless and not expressive and certainly not affectionate animals at all. But after spending regular time with them and over the years, we give them kisses right on the nose and they'll just come back for more. They're very curious animals. They love to go explore around the house and just sniff different things. And, a similar experience with our pet birds. We have a cockatiel and a lovebird, and just that big potential we found most animals have if you give them the time, if you give them that opportunity. And so then, 7 or 6 years later, we moved to Snowflake from Phoenix, and our awesome neighbors offered to hatch us some chickens because we had a coop already in our backyard. And, being animal lovers, we thought it'd be a cool idea to have our own source of eggs and be a little bit more self-sustaining in that way, but never really viewed them as pets. We still viewed them as livestock, just like most people. So our neighbors hatched us 6 chicks, and 4 of them wound up being roosters. But we had already become so bonded and attached to them being pet lovers that, we couldn't stand the thought of rehoming them or culling them. They had become, such companions at that point that we were just committed to keeping them and caring for them. So we set them up a separate bachelor flock. And by the time we did that, we'd had enough time with them that we realized, just like every other animal, there's so much more to them. They're so intelligent. They're so unique and individual. Like, everyone has their own personalities, and they're so interactive, and you just get so much out of them, so much more than you would think from a simple-minded farm animal, like most people think they are. So knowing what usually happens to most roosters and knowing what we experienced from our own, we couldn't sit aside anymore and do nothing. Like, it almost overnight, I think, became our life mission to save as many roosters as we could. And that's where the Roovolution started.
Yeah. Well, and there was a ton of skepticism there, too, because of our experience with the snakes. There's so much you'll read, online advice, forums, just talking about, if you handle them before they eat, if you handle them the same day they eat, they're going to refuse food. And if you get near their face, they're going to bite you. And just kind of the same idea, this is an aggressive animal that isn't going to think through its actions, and there's no ability to bond there. And we had seen that to be so off base. So with the roosters, we were reading the same stuff, like, they're going to turn mean at 4 months old when they hit puberty. They're going to turn mean. They're going to become aggressive. You're going to have nothing but problems. And I guess we kind of just initially ignored it. We went, well, that's been wrong before. We'll bet it's wrong again.
And at the same time, even if that is true, then we still love them. Like, we're just going to have to put up with it. Like, we're going to have to armor up and put on extra protection and do what it takes.
Plan.
So you already kind of had that idea that roosters could be difficult or that there might be some problems along the way, but it sounds like you had decided early on that you were going to find another way regardless.
Yeah, we just kind of decided that was not going to be the end of the story, that we were just going to have to figure something out. We were going to power through, and we were going to make it different. And that's sort of what we set out to do. And we did run into challenges and problems, but instead of treating it as a flaw in the bird, we kind of just took a step back and said, okay, what is it you're trying to tell us? What is it you're trying to communicate or ask for? Because there has to be a better explanation than you've just become a jerk overnight. And sure enough, over the years, we found that every time something like that came up, there was actually a different explanation. There was something they needed or some misunderstanding. And so, of course, at that point, we sort of doubled down and just resolved that, yeah, these things that people run into that can be so intimidating, they're not a hopeless situation and they're not just nastiness. They're something that can be fixed.
And that's reinforced further by experience with other animal species, even common pets that other people keep, cockatiels, dogs, cats, or the snakes that we have. Any one of them can and have bitten us, but it's never out of, meanness or malice, like it wasn't anything personal. If our bird bites us, they're probably frustrated or annoyed about something, or we touched them the wrong way, or we hit a pin feather or something like that. And once you dive in and actually explore and investigate what potential reasons there are for any animal to do any of the things they do, you start to see there's always a reason for everything they do. Whether that's in captivity or in the wild. Having learned that, we just applied it to the roosters, and everything just sort of really happened naturally and peacefully. Like, that's not to say that, again, that we didn't have challenges and struggles, but having that mindset, we were able to tackle them just a lot more effectively.
Yeah,
sure.
They became challenges instead of dead ends.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're experiencing the same issues we all are, but having more success working through those because you're treating those problems with each individual rooster with a unique solution rather than addressing any issue that comes up with the same solution or the same punishment every time. Is that right?
I mean, that is exactly it. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, but there's no shortage of places that it will tell you that there is. It's always kick him, pin him, show him who's boss. One of the things I bring up to people most often is when you have a rooster who, for instance, has just been through predator attack, and you go out to the coop and he kicks you and you kick him back. You're not showing him who's boss. You're feeling his fear in that situation. And so it's absolutely crucial to know what he's responding to, because if he's kicking because he's ill, if he's kicking because he's afraid, trying to dominate him is only going to add to his list of problems. It's not going to get you a calm bird. Just the other day, we were contacted by someone who wanted help because their super calm, really sweet rooster had attacked them out of nowhere. They didn't know what had caused it. And before I could even reply, actually, they reached back out saying, I figured it out. The door to the coop had blown closed, and some of the hens were trapped in there. So he was just desperately trying to get help, and he knew that she was someone who could do it. And so as soon as she let those hens out, he went right back to being perfectly peaceful and calm. So that really is the answer, is you have to look at all of the individual factors, what's going on in his life, what those environmental circumstances are. And so many people wind up having these failures because they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. The things they're trying are not the solution, and they don't apply in their situation, but there's such an overwhelming consensus that it's that simple. It's another thing that I always mention to people is that if it were that simple, you wouldn't see so many people culling and rehoming. The problems would be fixed. What
we do differently than other keepers is we avoid all negative interactions, even if they're presenting us with a, quote, negative interaction in our eyes. We always make sure to never respond to them negatively. They're responding how they think is best based on their assessment of the situation. So it's important for us to not take that personally, realize that they're confused, because why would they be mad at us? We've never hurt them, right? We raised them, we care for them. So if we stop and don't take it personally and we don't retaliate, it gives us an opportunity to investigate what that actual reason is, and then that provides us the next opportunity to remove that trigger, to comfort them in the way that they might need, to show them that they don't have to worry or that they can trust us, whatever they might need in that unique situation. And like we said, every bird is different, so each one could have a unique trigger. It could be anything from the color or shape of any piece of clothing you might be wearing, or something you might be holding in your hand, or, you might move too quickly, and a particular rooster might respond badly to that. Like, they just want you to walk slowly around them. And once you can pinpoint that's the reason, then you can just very easily avoid the problem. So yeah, what we do differently than others is we don't dominate, we don't intimidate, we don't try and do dominance training. There's no really need to put ourselves in that competitive space. I promise chickens are smart enough to know we are not fellow chickens. They recognize that we care for them. We come out every day. We let them out. We feed them. We change their water. They can see us as caretakers. And if we can avoid responding to them as another rooster might, then we can remain totally detached from that pecking order, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's an assumption that people make, that you're either going to be dominant or you're going to be submissive. And it's honestly, I think, just an artifact of having in the past just looked at the way that chickens interact with each other and observed that social structure, and then just kind of making a leap in logic that that's all they're capable of understanding. And that research has kind of lagged behind. The most recent studies they've done on chicken intelligence has found them to be close to on par with a 7-year-old human, based on they found them capable of transitive inference. And so they're quite intelligent, but that wasn't known back when all of this was first set up, these traditional approaches. It was kind of like with dogs, there was that dominance training push for a long time there too, based on the same thing, the fact that they have a social hierarchy. But, of course, these days, that's largely fallen out of favor. It's thought to be majorly detrimental and not the way that you want to go about it. It's just that we're not quite there yet, it seems, with the roosters. So what will often happen is that during that teen hormonal period they go through, they do something silly, just like a human teen might, and people mistake it as aggression or dominance, and then they try to dominate them back, and they wind up accidentally telling the rooster that they are competing with them and they are part of that pecking order. And that could have been avoided, just by basically ignoring the bad behavior, honestly, just teaching them it's not going to get them anywhere. But you wind up setting yourself up as the main rival and putting a target on your back, and then they start coming for you deliberately. And that's where a lot of people just kind of hit a brick wall and they wind up feeling like they have to get rid of them.
When I see you guys in your rooster house or in your coop and run, it doesn't look like they look at you as like you're the dominant. It's more like equals.
Totally.
It kind of seems like they're very emotionally attached to you. And I want to say like family. I don't see you guys coming in there and then them like, oh, we better get in line. The boss is here.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. There is a respect there. And, sometimes I'll assist our head roo in discipline or, scolding somebody that did something wrong. It's never in a way that puts me in that pecking order. I don't take his job off of his hands. Sometimes he even comes up and he'll do something that I think is like saying thank you, like, oh, hey, thanks for the assist on that one. Like it was getting out of hand. Like,
well, that's honestly one reason we're so passionate about this, is because we've seen firsthand that there is this third option, and it is so wonderful when you have it. I mean, they have never been pinned, they've never been kicked, they've never been sprayed, they've never been challenged by us or dominated a day in their life. It probably matters, to mention that they're a little over 2 years old now, so it's not like they just haven't hit that phase yet. But they are a bit over 2 and so cooperative just by choice, never threatened, never punished for disobedience or anything like that. But we'll go out of the run and they'll follow us out there and they'll be pecking around and eating leaves and having a blast. And all it takes is us walking back into that run and they all follow us like a row of little ducks. Yeah. Whenever our head roo breaks anything up between the others, he comes running right up to us like he's so proud. Like, did you see? Did I do good? They even wait. They wait for us to tuck them in at night. Even if it's starting to get dark, they won't go the 7 feet to the coop because they know we're going to arrive and escort them and give them cuddles before bed. So they have zero desire to compete or dominate, in any way, but they still seem to really want our approval. And so we always tell people, it's so much better to have them cooperate because they want to make you happy. But most people just never even consider that that's possible.
Yeah, I think they really do recognize us as like a parental figure. We did raise them since they were a day or 2 old. We see them every day, but now that they're adults, they live on their own, they do their own thing, they have their own routines, and they manage themselves. It's sort of natural. I think most animals, if not all, just have a natural tendency to respect their parents.
Yeah.
So we're Mama and Papa Roo.
I get kind of jealous watching those videos. I mean, so obviously you guys are getting the benefit of like putting a rooster to bed and getting nighttime snuggles, and the kisses and the petting of his cheeks is like so cool. But beyond all that, have you seen any benefits like to the flock, or how those roosters interact with each other and with the hens in the group?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple things just off the top of my head. Our boys are housed just with other roos, so we don't really get to see the interaction with the hens. But that said, the bachelor flocks still have a pecking order. So we've still got the leader. We've got kind of his chosen helper. We've got our bottom boy who's just always getting scolded for everything he does. But they'll call for us, when they need help. They'll alert us to things still. Our head roo is really good about hollering anytime he thinks something might be wrong. He's very measured when it comes to disciplining everyone else, which has been really interesting to see, because it really does seem like he's picking up on the fact that we care about all of them. He wants to make us proud. So he's like learning from our response to how he breaks up disputes and enforces things, and using that feedback to model how he disciplines the flock. So we don't see a lot of heavy-handed, alpha kind of behavior typically. And I can't help but think that that is because he saw that we were so proud of him when he did it, quote, right, but so concerned when he was a little bit too pushy about it. Like when he first took over the position, it took some learning to figure out how much is too much and what's actually required to keep peace about things. But then there's also just the fact that if we have someone with an injury out there, we can go in there, we can pick them up, we can do whatever we need to. We're not getting flogged. We're not getting treated as a threat. I mean, honestly, they're so trusting and they're so comfortable with their humans. We've had a few strangers come over now and walk into a run of 4 mature roosters, and they sit down, and within 20 seconds, one of those boys is up on their lap wanting hugs.
That's amazing.
I mean, someone they've never met.
Yeah, they've never even considered that a human might ever be a bad thing. And so it just makes them incredibly easy to work with. We can literally just go out and just pick him up, and like we had a boy snap off his entire spur. We were able to just hold him on our lap while we staunched that bleeding and wrapped him and treated him, because they just trust us entirely.
Yeah, and I guess a little more on that. I think over time we sort of use repeat keywords, so like when we're treating somebody, we like use help, gentle, it's okay, buddy, it's okay, help. And, after repeating that so many times, and then them seeing that even though they're maybe restrained and we're doing something that they at first don't like, they do see the end result. They see that we did provide help and we supported them, and something that, was making them feel bad in some way got better. And you can just tell in their body language, they're so appreciative. Like they're so thankful, like that somebody listened and actually like took the time to help them.
Yeah.
And they pay it back, so much in the bond that they form with you.
Yeah, they definitely learn. I recently had to dislodge a small pebble from our rooster Daisy's nostril. I don't know how he got it in there, but it basically involved having to like lift the upper edge of his nostril to widen that space and let this rock come out. And the whole time I was just thinking, I don't know how I would even be doing this if he weren't so tame. But he's to the point that if you just say gentle, help, he will just freeze. You can get feathers out of his eye, and he will just sit there and wait.
Our boy Morgan responds to the word wait. Like if you tell him to wait, he'll start getting impatient maybe at like treat time or visit time when we're doing cuddles, and he'll want the lap when somebody else is on it, and you just tell him, wait, Morgan, wait, buddy, and he'll freeze and he'll just look up at you like, okay, I'm waiting.
Head roo, mind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it
just simplifies everything. It really does. We've never have to chase a rooster around to inspect him.
That's amazing to have that kind of a relationship with your roosters. And I can only imagine people are going to hear this and be like, I want that. You've got a couple of Facebook groups. I see how much work and effort you guys put into that. I mean, gosh, there's a ton of questions getting asked every day. And I feel like I see one of you guys, at least on almost every post, getting in there and helping people. I think initially I commented like one thing, and then I got like a few 100-word long text about, that you offered to help me out. And it was like late at night too. I mean, that's got to be very rewarding, knowing that this program that you've developed, you're now able to help share with people. For people taking that on, like what kind of challenges are you seeing that they have, especially with, maybe they're established roosters. Say it's one of my 2-year-old roosters that likes to attack me. He's already sort of established that he's the boss and going to dominate me.
Right.
So,
honestly, it's mostly just a matter of philosophy and perspective. There really isn't all that much difference because there's still that rocky phase. Even if you raise them from chicks, you're going to hit that rocky phase, and it's going to be rough to understand what they're saying and what they're getting at with any of these behaviors. So the real difference is just that at least when you've raised them, you know that they were friends with you at one point. So there's kind of that hope subconsciously that, hey, we were there once, we can be there again. Whereas with like an older boy, say a rescue or a new addition who's older and hasn't known you before, it's going to be harder to keep that hope up just because you don't have that background. But in our experience, they come around, and they come around in a huge way. It seems like they're just dying to be close and be loved and have that support. Unfortunately, they're not always great about how they ask for it. But that's what most people probably have a hard time with, is just adjusting that perspective and not giving up hope too quickly. Because, you see so many of, again, these one-size-fits-all solutions. Oh, just pin him each day for a week and he'll leave you alone. And it's like, if you really want to solve the problem, it's going to take some analysis. It's going to take some refinement. It's going to take seeing how he reacts to this first method you try and going on from there and adjusting things and just getting to that end goal by a process of modifications.
And I guess on a more surface level, you're going to face the same challenges because a rooster is a rooster. They're prone to, you could say, snap judgments, flipping on that instinctual switch. And as long as you are in the right mindset to receive and interpret that properly and not overreact, not retaliate, the challenge will seem a lot less hurtful. On like just a pure physical side, like our boys still bite us. Sometimes May kicks Sarah's legs if she's walking at the wrong time.
Or if it's very windy.
Yeah, if it's very windy, he's particularly stressed out. Everyone's going to deal with bites and kicks, and it hurts. Don't get me wrong. Like, they've broken skin so many times. I've got a nice little patch on my hand of scars, but like that's easily overcome by protective clothing. If you don't want your hands to get bitten up, then wear gloves, and you can receive that mistaken message without injury, and therefore you're not taking it personally, and you can move forward and be like, now buddy, like, we didn't need to do that. And he knows that you're not taking it personally, and he'll realize that, oh man, I'm so glad that they didn't hit me for that. I was out of my mind when I did that. Like
a lot of people assume it's malicious when it just really isn't. So it's all about sending the right signals to them and telling them what you want them to understand. So if you want them to understand that you're not there to compete with them, you're not a danger, you're not a threat, you have to behave in a way that relays that they're going to understand. And that's where a lot of people, I think, kind of mess up, is that they're not sending the message that they need to.
Yeah, I think so many people, even the ones that resort to the dominance methods, they want to be friends with their roosters. I see this so many times, like, my rooster was so friendly and he just attacked me. Why is he mean now? And it's like, if you want your rooster to be friendly to him. It works the same way in humans. If you want to be friends with somebody, don't be mean to him.
Right.
So it really is that obvious. And I think too many people respond to people's questions saying there's no fixing them. Oh, you have to dominate them. And unfortunately, like, that's what most people wind up doing. And and then they're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, we mentioned this a lot, that vicious cycle where they're told that all you can do is you've got to dominate him, you've got to show him who's boss. And then those people try that, and he predictably gets worse. He becomes more aggressive. Then they come back to groups and tell other keepers that there's no fix because they tried dominating him and, quote, nothing worked. But it's very rare to find people who tried being the calm in the storm and seeking to actually take that message and fix his problem for him. It really should be more like a toddler who slept poorly or is feeling sick and they're having a tantrum. You know, you don't spray them or kick them. It wouldn't help. You get them off to a nap, you hold them, you tell them it'll be okay, but you're going to be calm because you know that's what they need to see. And it's really very similar.
It sounds like you guys aren't offering up a short term or a quick fix. It's almost like a lifestyle change and just a completely different approach. It's not, well, I'm going to be nice to him today. It's like, I want to be nice to my rooster. That's the sort of relationship I'm going to at least try to cultivate with him. And do you think that people are understanding of that and willing to make that complete change in the way that they do approach their chickens? Or do you see people getting maybe frustrated because something's not working right away?
You know, I think actually most are really eager to do that and really willing. The problem we used to run into was that I think a lot of people didn't feel good about following up. It's kind of one reason we set up the Facebook group, is to give people a reliable place. Like, you can come back here anytime, any obstacle, any bump in the road, we'll be here and we'll help you. Because it is a long-term process. What we always try to do is give people a short-term fix, at least for keeping safe. That means we're going to get you into a position where you are not in danger of injury, he is not in danger of injury, and things are at least neutral. That can be done basically immediately. But as far as like building that trust where he wants to come jump into your lap and purr on your shoulder, that does take time, just like any relationship. It takes investment and demonstrating a solid track record of reliability and trustworthiness.
So if you were interested in maybe a different take on that, I don't know that people are willing to put the time in to see that result, because like you said, it's not a quick fix. It can take time, whether that's a week or a month or longer. And I think because people are expecting something so simple, they expect a simple and quick fix. Chickens as livestock are supposed to be easy. And when, a rooster attacks because of a misunderstanding, it's no longer simple. And when most humans view an animal as something that is supposed to be simple to deal with, they're limited to thinking that, this is a chicken, it should respect me. And when it's not behaving the way I want, it's not worth my time anymore. Like, what an inconvenience. Going back to something you said, it is a lifestyle change, and it's a change in mentality and philosophy, So it's hard to answer whether or not people are willing to put in that time, because, we haven't seen as many success stories as I'd like to see. But maybe that means that that it's taking months and they're still putting in that work. I can only hope. So.
Well, it seems like people keep coming back. I see the group. It seems like it's thriving. A lot of people are on there talking about the good relationship that they do have with their roosters. I mean, that alone has got to make you guys feel really good to know that you've played some part. I mean, if you can affect the life of even just a few, and then maybe those few spread it, and it seems like the word is getting out there, and that's pretty awesome.
That's one of the best feelings, when we find somebody in another group saying, I'm at my wit's end, I'm culling him next week, and we get in touch with them and we say, hey, if you've got a little bit of time, a little bit of patience left, check this out, give some things a try, get him over to the group. And then maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, we see, oh my gosh, he ate out of my hand today, and they're still alive and they're still kicking and they're making progress. So,
our ambitions for the Revolution are certainly lofty. We want to change the entire world, of course, but just seeing that we've saved one definitely makes it all feel worth it. All the kicks and bruises and bites and scars that we have, from dealing with our roosters, was worth it just to save one. So
yeah, for sure. But you guys are getting the word out there. I think you are building up some followers there and other people that are spreading the same message. So I mean, how big can the Revolution go? What's the big picture dream for it?
What a big question. If everything goes to plan, the Roovolution will expand, will reach a wider audience, we'll start educating more chicken keepers and non-chicken keepers alike, just to change their perspective on what a chicken is and can be, what they're capable of emotionally as well as physically. But we want the whole world to see that chickens are misunderstood. They've been misrepresented for decades and decades and decades. They were once revered as gods, like in ancient times, they're so disrespected now because at a certain time they were just turned into a resource, and then people stopped thinking about consciousness underneath what they're eating. And now it's just a part of the world's culture to see a chicken as a food source that they don't have to feel guilty about eating. And this gets into, I guess, vegan philosophy and everything, and we're sort of on the fence of doing that. I'm trying to transition to that, but I see nothing wrong with eating their eggs. Like, we wouldn't want them to go to waste. But I have stopped eating chicken. I can't do it anymore. I think of every chicken breast I see at the store as an individual that had a personality that just didn't get the opportunity to live a full life and enjoy things like our chickens have. I'll come back around to saying that we want to change the world and their perspective of chickens, and at least give them the information that they've been lacking for so many years. I think a lot of people who currently eat chicken maybe wouldn't if they learned what we learned. We ate chicken and learned something new and made a different decision based on new information. And I think that a lot of people are just stuck in a loop, essentially, because they're either not being exposed to that information that would change their mind, or they're like deliberately ignoring it.
Yeah, just maybe out of discomfort. It's hard to make those changes. I still miss beef, and our chickens miss beef. But yeah, just having seen what remarkable companions they can be, it's very hard not to have a change in perspective. I say all the time, I don't know how chickens aren't man's best friend. We've got our hen living in the house right now, just a little bit off and on ill, and she's just running after us from room to room, and she'll just climb right onto my arm. Like, they're just utterly brilliant, so affectionate, so bonded. And so it feels like it has to be cognitive dissonance. There's nothing inherent to the bird that makes them any less suited to be a companion animal. So it would certainly be amazing if people were to start seeing them more as the way we see cats or dogs. But even if they could just go into it seeing that potential for a really impactful and valuable relationship.
Definitely. Not necessarily a big picture goal for Roovolution, but like something that I've learned, at least, philosophically, having had pets all my life, like dozens and dozens of different species, it just took having the chickens, and probably the rooster specifically, to make me realize that pets in general, I don't think should be kept. And I know that that's like a pretty hard stance to take. I know a lot of people love animals, but like, I think everyone would probably be happier, the animals included, if they were allowed to be more wild and just given the opportunity to develop a friendship with a human. When you do that, when you allow an animal to be them, they'll see that in you and appreciate that and be them around you. Yeah. And that's so much more fulfilling than having a pet in a cage. I feel so fortunate and lucky and proud of everything we've done with our animals, but at the same time, I feel guilty. Like, I wish I could give them all acres and acres, a natural habitat, something that's just not really practical, in any sense.
Well, there is a certain magnetism that comes from just letting a being do what it does. We've noticed this just so deeply with our birds that it really feels like the entire reason that they trust us so much and that they're so bonded and so attached is because they have that space to be themselves and they know it.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would enjoy coexisting peacefully with you guys. You're giving them the freedom to be who they are, and it sounds like you guys are getting a lot of love back in return, so that's awesome. If you had a chance to get your message out there to, say, somebody that is struggling with their birds, somebody that feels like, they've already tried the more traditional methods and they're out of options, what would you guys say to them?
That's an excellent question. I wish I would have had something prepared. Give your chickens a chance to surprise you. They will, I promise. Let go of the traditional knowledge that chickens are simple-minded and open yourself up to them being a friend, and they totally can be.
That's perfect. Yeah. I mean, I never imagined that chickens would be as special to me as they are, and just never knew that they were such amazing animals.
That really is what people need to know, is just with any level of investment, they can just be the most incredible friends and companions. And people just really don't know what they're missing by going into it with such a low bar. Raise that bar and they will gladly meet and exceed it. And you'll be so glad you did.
Yeah.
So how can people connect with you or find out more about the Roovolution?
Yeah, so Revolution is our channel on YouTube. We also admin a group on Facebook called Rooster Allies. Excellent group for support for new rooster keepers, new chicken keepers, as well as the experienced ones to get help with things they're dealing with. People who have success still run into new issues and need creative ways to solve them. So
yeah, I mean, if you're looking for help, come join us and we'll be right there. If you're someone who already knows everything we're saying and you're totally on the same page, come help us teach others. We also have an email at jointheRoovolution@gmail.com. That's join the ROOVOLUTION@gmail.com. That's the best place if you have a detailed question and you just want to talk with us one-on-one and get advice. We'll be happy to brainstorm and kind of troubleshoot and consult with you. No charge. We just want to help people get along with their boys. And then for the Rooster Allies group on Facebook, lots of members there who will jump in and throw out their experience and their tips and pointers. And we keep a close eye on everything to make sure that nothing that's getting suggested is going to mislead people or create further problems or burn any bridges with that bird. So it's a safe place to go for any kinds of advice and make connections and meet some other roof fanatics while you're at it.
You know, the Rooster Allies group has been like my go-to lately for help that I'm still needing with a couple of my guys. I love the community that's there, the positive message you guys are helping to get out, and all the valuable information. It really is a great spot for people that love their chickens. Guys, thank you for taking the time to come and talk with me. I really enjoyed it and just really appreciate it. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you guys were awesome, and I hope we can do it again soon. Hey, everyone. Hope that you enjoyed that interview. Hope that you found some things in there that sound interesting or might possibly be helpful to you. If so, you really should go check out the Rooster Allies Facebook group. Really cool place. I will try to leave a link for that in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Talk to you guys again soon.